From our Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana Siddiqui. Our top story tonight. Doctors are concerned that one of the 3 Palestinian victims of a possible hate-motivated shooting in Vermont on Saturday may never be able to walk again. Hisham Awaranti is a Palestinian Irish-American student at Brown University. He and Kinan Abdulhamid, a student at Harvard College, as well as Tahsin Ali Ahmed, a Trinity College student in Connecticut, were shot over the weekend. Awaranti suffered a bullet wound to his spinal cord. The accused shooter is 48-year-old Jason Eaton. He has entered a plea of not guilty to 3 counts of second-degree attempted murder. In a show of solidarity, many students around Brown University's campus are wearing keffiyehs in honor of the victims. These are traditional black and white scarves associated with the Palestinian freedom movement. 2 of the victims were wearing keffiyehs when they were shot. President Joe Biden has expressed gratitude to local and federal law enforcement agencies for their swift action in apprehending the shooting suspect. Israel has banned Palestinians from celebrating the release of their own prisoners. Israeli Interior Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir claimed such expressions of joy are terrorism and likened Palestinians celebrating to human scum and Nazis. He has ordered Israeli police to enforce this ban with an iron fist. The Israeli government has consistently portrayed released Palestinian prisoners as hardened terrorists. This is despite the absence of fair trials for them. Most of the 300 Palestinian prisoners slated for release are teenagers. Over 120 of them are under the age of 18. Many of the 146 prisoners who turned 18 did so while in Israeli custody. Since many were minors when Israel arrested them, this has raised concerns about their treatment under the UN Convention of the Rights of the Child. Palestinian teenagers are sharing harrowing accounts of torture and abuse in Israeli jails. The youth were recently released in a prisoner exchange between Hamas and Israel during a temporary 4-day truce in Gaza. 39 Palestinians have already been freed from Israeli custody. Teenagers Khalil Muhammad Badr al-Zamera and Omar al-Atshan describe a disturbing pattern of mistreatment, beatings, and humiliation by Israeli guards while in prison. They claim adults and children were abused in the same manner, and that at least 5 fellow prisoners are reported to have died from mistreatment. The young people also say there was scarce access to food and water and claim that Israeli soldiers beat them even upon their release. The prisoners' testimonies have raised concerns about the conditions of Palestinian detainees in Israeli jails. In related news, Osama Naif Marmash, a child recently released as part of the prisoner exchange, told Anadolu news agency that he was beaten every week by the Israeli army. In Israeli prisons, Palestinians are subjected to harsh conditions, from beatings to hunger, cold, and other ill treatment. Marmash said Israeli guards took all of the children's clothes, blankets, and mattresses. He had been held in administrative detention without charge for the past 5 months. The boy from the northern occupied West Bank city of Nablus said they had to wait in the cold since 8 a.m. until the Red Cross came and took them out of prison. Marmash said on the morning of their release, Israeli soldiers sprayed the prisoners with water despite the cold weather. Several Democratic members of Congress have been publicly criticizing Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and questioning America's unconditional aid to Israel. According to the Congressional Research Service, to date, the United States has provided Israel $158 billion in bilateral assistance and missile defense funding. Almost all U.S. bilateral aid to Israel is in the form of military assistance. Critics of this unconditional aid include Congresswomen Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Pressley says the question at hand is, should our taxpayer dollars create conditions for justice, healing, and repair, or should those dollars create conditions for oppression and apartheid? Congresswoman Cori Bush has also joined the solidarity movement with the Palestinian people. Experts say this reflects a growing shift in the Democratic Party's stance on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The Washington Post reports that President Joe Biden privately apologized to a group of influential Muslim Americans. This is after he expressed skepticism about the death toll in Gaza during a White House press conference on October 25th. Biden had questioned the accuracy of the numbers provided by Gaza's Ministry of Health. This angered prominent Muslim Americans who met with him the following day. They expressed their disappointment and shared stories of civilian losses in Gaza in the meeting. Biden apologized, saying, "I'm sorry, I'm disappointed in myself, I will do better." The credibility of the Ministry of Health's figures has been questioned because of its affiliation with Hamas. However, fact-checking by the Washington Post indicated the numbers are most likely accurate. Biden officials have been meeting with staffers, political appointees, and outside groups to gauge their reactions to the administration's stance on the Israel-Palestine conflict. No fuel for hospitals in Gaza despite humanitarian pause. Details after the break, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Health authorities in Gaza are still waiting for fuel for hospitals in the northern parts of the enclave, despite the humanitarian pause. Director of Gaza's hospitals, Munir al-Bursh, told Anadolu News Agency that a small amount of fuel had arrived in Gaza City. It was received by the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees to operate the water wells in the refugee camps. Al-Bursh has called for urgent fuel and medicines for Gaza's hospitals. As part of the agreed humanitarian pause in Gaza, some 158 trucks entered on Sunday, including 7 fuel trucks. Israel's bombardment over the last few weeks, along with its denial of fuel to Gaza, are forcing its residents to forego cars for animal-drawn carts as their primary mode of transport. Carts pulled by donkeys and horses were once a rare sight and used primarily by Gaza's vendors. But Israel's denial of fuel to the region has made most cars unusable. In the central Gaza town of Deir al-Balah, carts now carry residents and displaced individuals. They also allow residents to access essential goods and flee zones of conflict. The BBC is being criticized for mistranslating an interview with a recently released Palestinian prisoner, falsely accusing her of supporting Hamas. The BBC's English subtitles suggested the prisoner was praising Hamas. However, the language activist group Respond Crisis Translation exposed the error. The corrected translation reveals she was actually describing harsh conditions in Israeli prisons, not endorsing Hamas. Respond Crisis Translation condemned the BBC's mistranslation. It has called it a racist fabrication fueling conflict in Gaza. After widespread backlash, the BBC admitted to the error and issued a correction. It also released an extended clip that included the mention of Hamas. President Joe Biden has decided to skip the United Nations Climate Summit in Dubai, a move drawing criticism from climate advocates and scientists. This decision to not attend COP28 comes as the U.S. faces mounting pressure to support a rapid phase-out of fossil fuels. Despite being the largest historical emitter of greenhouse gases, the U.S. plans to extract record amounts of oil and gas this year. Biden's previous attendance at climate summits yielded no significant commitments to reduce fossil fuel production. He has also faced backlash for approving massive fossil fuel projects. Meanwhile, the UAE, the summit's host, aims to strike oil and gas deals during the event. Critics argue that COP28 should focus on climate solutions, not backroom deals that worsen the crisis. Research by the Kick Big Polluters Out coalition reveals that oil and gas industry lobbyists have attended UN-led climate talks more than 7,000 times over the past 20 years in an attempt to prevent action to rein in fossil fuels. Embattled New York Congressman George Santos has leveled accusations against fellow members of Congress, claiming that there are felons galore among them. Santos made these remarks during a lengthy conversation, expressing concerns about the ethics of his colleagues and their relationships with lobbyists. This statement followed a House Ethics Committee report that found substantial evidence of Santos violating federal laws. The committee's investigation concluded that Santos unknowingly caused his campaign committee to file false reports with the Federal Election Commission. It also held that he misused campaign funds for personal purposes and engaged in fraudulent conduct related to Redstone Strategies, LLC. He was also accused of willful violations of the Ethics in Government Act concerning his financial disclosure statements filed with the House. Santos, who previously faced charges of wire fraud, money laundering, theft of public funds, and making false statements to the House, expressed his determination to defend his name. He also announced that he would not seek re-election in 2024 due to the toll on his family. In a concerning development, American military investigations have uncovered the theft of sensitive weapons and equipment from U.S. outposts in Iraq and Syria. According to reports by The Intercept, these thefts include guided missile launch systems, drones, and other valuable military gear. In one instance, 13 commercial drones worth more than $100,000 have been stolen from a U.S. facility in Erbil, Iraq. Another investigation revealed the theft of targeting sites and launcher units for Javelin missiles at or en route to Forward Operating Base Union 3 in Baghdad, Iraq. The investigations ruled out insider involvement and pointed to Iraqi criminal organizations and militia groups as likely suspects. Sikh activists in New York recently confronted India's ambassador to the United States, Taranjit Singh Sandhu. Videos of the encounter that went viral show activists raising concerns about attacks on Sikh activists Hardeep Singh Nijjar and Gurpatwant Singh Panun. Nijjar was killed in Canada last June, which the Canadian government alleges was the work of Indian agents in the country. Earlier this month, the Financial Times reported that American authorities had thwarted a plot to kill Panun in the United States. The White House has said this reported assassination attempt on American soil is a matter of utmost seriousness and has raised it with the Indian government. Nijjar was and Panun is a leader in the Khalistan movement, which calls for a separate state in the Indian state of Punjab for Sikhs. Ambassador Sandhu had visited a Sikh house of worship in Long Island, New York, to participate in celebrations relating to a Sikh festival. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Salam and good night.